The great arena floated in space like a crystal jewel. It orbited the peaceful world of Concordia Prime, far from any single empire's control. Inside, thousands of aliens from across the galaxy filled the seats. Their voices created a sound like thunder as they waited for the tournament to begin. Every 100 years, the grand tournament brought the galaxy together. Each species sent their greatest warrior. The winner would bring honor to their people. They would gain better trade routes and political power. But most importantly, they would prove their species was the strongest in all the stars. Ambassador Hyojin stood in the diplomatic viewing box. She wore the formal uniform of Earth's delegation. Her dark eyes watched the arena floor below. Around her, other ambassadors talked and laughed. They spoke about their champions with pride. Some had sent warriors who stood 3 meters tall. Others brought fighters with 4 arms or natural armor plating. A few species had enhanced their champions with advanced technology. Nobody talked about Earth's champion. When they looked at Hyojin, their eyes showed pity or amusement. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only joined the Council of Dominions 100 years ago. Most species saw them as weak and soft. A tall reptilian ambassador approached Hyojin. His scales gleamed green and gold under the lights. He represented the mighty Krathian Empire. His species had won the last 17 tournaments. "Ambassador," he said with a voice like grinding stones, "I see your champion has arrived. Is he unwell? Perhaps Earth wishes to withdraw." Hyojin smiled but said nothing. Below in the preparation chamber, Earth's representative sat alone on a bench. Captain Daewon looked nothing like a champion. He was a man of average height and build. His black hair showed streaks of gray at the temples. Scars marked his hands and face. Old injuries had left him with a slight limp when he walked. He wore simple combat clothing with no decoration or enhancement. Daewon stretched his shoulders slowly. His movements were careful and measured. He looked like a man who had seen too many battles and wanted no more. Other fighters in nearby chambers were younger, bigger, and louder. They roared challenges and beat their chests. They showed off their strength and speed for the cameras. Daewon simply sat and breathed. His eyes were closed. His face showed nothing. The arena announcer's voice boomed through the space. It spoke in the common galactic language that all species understood. The first match would begin soon. The crowd grew louder. Bets were placed. Odds were calculated. Earth's champion had the worst odds of any fighter in the tournament. Most gamblers gave him no chance of surviving past the first round. The first fighter entered the arena. He was a Thoraxian berserker, a creature designed by nature for war. He stood nearly 3 meters tall. His 4 arms ended in razor claws. Thick armor plates covered his body. The crowd cheered as he raised his arms and roared. His species was known for their rage and strength. They feared nothing. Then Daewon entered from the opposite gate. The crowd's noise changed. Some aliens laughed. Others whispered in confusion. This small, scarred human would face the berserker? It seemed like a joke. A cruel mistake. The Thoraxian looked at Daewon and growled with disappointment. Where was the challenge? Where was the worthy opponent? The human walked with that slight limp. His face remained calm and empty. He took his position and waited. The starting signal flashed. The berserker charged immediately. His claws reached out to tear and rend. The crowd expected blood. They expected a quick and brutal end. What happened next made the arena fall silent. Daewon moved. Not with panic or fear, not with the wild movements of desperation. He moved with perfect economy. His body shifted just enough to let the berserker's first strike pass by his head. His hand snapped out and struck a nerve cluster in the creature's lower arm. The arm went numb instantly. The berserker roared and swung with his other 3 arms. Daewon ducked under one strike, stepped inside another, used the creature's own momentum to throw him off balance. Every movement was precise. No energy wasted. No motion without purpose. The Thoraxian tried to use his superior strength. He grabbed for the human with his good arms. But Daewon was never where he expected. The human targeted joints and weak points with surgical accuracy. He struck nerve centers that most species didn't even know existed. He moved like water around stone, always flowing, never stopping, never caught. 1 minute passed, then 2. The berserker's movements grew slower. His rage made him sloppy. Daewon remained calm. His breathing stayed even and controlled. He was patient. He waited for the exact right moment. When that moment came, Day One struck. 3 rapid blows to specific points on the berserker's body. The massive creature's legs gave out. He fell to one knee, tried to rise, could not. His nervous system had been disrupted with perfect precision. He was alive, conscious but unable to fight. The match had lasted less than 2 minutes. Day One stepped back and waited for the officials to declare the match over. He showed no emotion, no pride or excitement. He simply turned and walked back toward his gate. The limp was still there. The crowd didn't know how to react. Slowly, some began to cheer. Others sat in confused silence. What had they just witnessed? In the diplomatic box, the Krathian ambassador's expression had changed. The amusement was gone. He looked at Hyojin with new eyes. Luck, someone said nearby. He got lucky, but Hyojin saw others who were not so sure. A few ambassadors watched the replay on their displays. They studied Day One's movements frame by frame. Their faces showed something new, something that looked almost like concern. The matches continued through the day. Other fights were longer and more brutal. They involved more blood and broken bones. Day One fought twice more. Each time the result was the same, quick, efficient, precise. His opponents were bigger and stronger. They had natural weapons and armor. But they all fell within minutes. None of them could touch him. None of them understood what they were facing. After the day's matches ended, Day One returned to Earth's small quarters. He moved through his cool-down routine alone. His body ached from old injuries that never fully healed, but his mind was clear. He had done this before. Not in an arena, not for sport, but the movements were the same. The calculations were the same. Find the weakness. Exploit it, win, survive. He thought about his home. His wife Subin would be watching from Earth. His children Jiwoo and Taiyang. They had begged him not to go. He was retired. He had served his time. But when Earth needed a representative, they had called. And Day One had answered. He always answered. Somewhere in the massive station, other species were beginning to ask questions. Who was this human? What was his background? Why did he fight with such cold efficiency? The answers they found would change everything. But that would come later. For now, the galaxy still thought they understood. They still thought this was luck or chance. They still believed humans were weak. That belief would not last much longer. The tournament had just begun, and the Reaper was only getting started. Commander Thal sat in his meditation chamber. His insect-like body was perfectly still. Around him, thousands of minds connected through the Corvin Hive network. They shared thoughts instantly across vast distances. This was their strength. Individual weakness became collective power. No single warrior could match the tactical processing of a hive mind. But something troubled the hive. The human. Captain Day One. He had won 4 matches now. Each victory came quickly and without wasted effort. The hive had studied the recordings, frame by frame, movement by movement. What they found disturbed them deeply. Thal accessed Earth's public records through the Galactic network. The information was available to anyone who looked. But until now, no one had bothered. Humans were new, young, unimportant. The data Thal found changed that view completely. Earth's history was full of war. Not occasional conflicts between neighboring tribes. Not brief territorial disputes. Constant, endless industrial-scale war. For their entire recorded history, humans had fought other humans. They had refined the art of killing their own kind for thousands of years. Thal read about the world wars, conflicts that consumed entire continents. Millions dead. He learned about siege warfare, guerrilla tactics, psychological operations, and asymmetric combat. Humans had developed weapons specifically designed to kill other humans with maximum efficiency. They had studied every aspect of warfare like other species studied mathematics or engineering. The hive mind processed this information. A conclusion formed. Humans were not warriors despite their weakness. They were warriors because of it. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced strength or speed, so they compensated. They studied. They adapted. They learned to use everything as a weapon. Their environment, their opponent's strength, even their own weakness. Thal sent a message to the other commanders watching the tournament. They needed to understand what they faced, but most ignored his warnings. The human looked old and damaged. He walked with a limp. How dangerous could he be? Meanwhile, in another part of the station, a young warrior from the Krathian Empire spoke with his mentor. Corvell had watched all of Day One's matches. He was scheduled to fight the human tomorrow if they both won their next rounds. He moved strangely, Corvell said. Not like a fighter. More like someone solving a puzzle. His mentor, an old champion named Vexthar, laughed. You worry too much. He is small and weak. You will crush him like all the others, but Corvell was not convinced. Did you see how he defeated the Thoraxian? He knew exactly where to strike. Every movement had a purpose. He showed no emotion, no fear or excitement, just calculation. Vexthar waved a clawed hand dismissively. He had won the tournament 17 times. He knew strength when he saw it. The human had none. The old champion walked away, leaving Corvell alone with his doubts. In the medical bay, several defeated fighters recovered from their matches. One of them, a four-armed warrior from the Nexus cluster, lay on a diagnostic table. His second left arm was in a cast. The medical staff had been surprised. A clean break in exactly the right place to disable without permanent damage. Very precise, very professional. How did he do it? The warrior asked the medic. I am trained by the best combat masters in the Nexus. I have fought hundreds of battles. But that human, I never touched him. Not once. The medic, an elderly being with 6 eyes, spoke quietly. I have seen warriors from many worlds. Strong ones, fast ones, fierce ones. But that human fights different. He fights like he has seen everything before. Like he knows what you will do before you do it. Daewon entered the medical bay at that moment. He needed treatment for an old injury that had flared up during his last match. His knee, an old wound from years ago. The medic gestured to an empty table. As Daewon sat down, the injured Nexus warrior watched him carefully. The human looked tired. His face showed lines of age and stress. His hands were scarred. This was a man who had been broken and put back together many times. You fought well, the warrior said in the common language. Daewon nodded slightly. Thank you. Your strength is impressive. Your speed too. Then how did you win? The question was genuine. Not angry. Just confused. Daewon was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. Strength and speed matter, but they are not everything. I watched you in your previous matches. I saw your patterns. The way you favor your right side. How you always start with high attacks. Everyone has patterns. I just found yours. The warrior thought about this. How many battles have you fought? Too many. Daewon's voice was flat, empty. I stopped counting years ago. And you are not even your world's best warrior? Daewon shook his head slowly. No, I am retired. I have not fought in 8 years. The younger ones are faster now. Better trained. I am just what was available. The Nexus warrior felt a chill run through his body. This broken, tired human was outdated? There were better ones? The thought was terrifying. He said nothing more. Daewon received his treatment in silence and left. In the diplomatic area, Hyojin met with a representative from a neutral species. The being was curious about Earth's military history. Hyojin decided to be honest. Better they learn now than be surprised later. Your people have been at war for how long? The diplomat asked, reviewing data on a display. Our entire recorded history, Hyojin answered calmly. We fought each other for resources, land, beliefs, and sometimes for no good reason at all. We developed weapons to kill other humans. Strategies to defeat other humans. Every tactic and counter-tactic was tested against the most adaptable and intelligent opponent we knew. Ourselves. The diplomat's eyes widened. Most species had brief periods of internal conflict. A few hundred years at most. Then they unified and looked outward. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting their own kind. They had turned war into a science. Why? The diplomat asked. Why so much conflict? Hyojin smiled sadly. We are not a hive mind. We are individuals with different ideas, different needs, different beliefs. We competed for everything, and we are very good at competition. And Captain Daewon? He is a soldier. Special operations. He survived 3 colonial wars in hostile territory. He lost his entire squad once and survived alone behind enemy lines for 6 months. He learned to use everything. The environment, psychology, patience, every tool a human can use to survive and win. The diplomat was quiet, then asked the important question. Why does he seem so damaged, so tired? Hyojin's expression became serious. Because he is. War breaks humans, even the strongest. Day one has seen friends die, has killed enemies, has made choices no one should make. That is what makes him perfect for this tournament. He knows what violence costs. He knows what he is. He knows what we made him into. That night, word spread through the station. Whispers in every language. The human was not lucky. He was trained, experienced, dangerous. Species that had laughed at Earth's champion began to worry. They reviewed his matches again. They saw the precision, the cold efficiency, the complete absence of mercy or hesitation. Commander Thal prepared for his own upcoming match. He was scheduled to face Day One in 2 days if they both continued winning. The hive mind calculated probabilities. They analyzed every movement the human had made. They developed strategies based on his patterns. But deep in the collective consciousness, a worry grew. Humans fought unpredictability for their entire history. Guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, chaos theory applied to combat. If any species could counter a hive mind's advantage, it would be one that learned to fight in the fog of war. Day One sat alone in his quarters. He stretched slowly, feeling every old injury. He thought about home, about his family, about the promise he made to return. He had accepted this mission because Earth needed him. One last time. One more fight. He did not enjoy fighting. Had never enjoyed it. But he was good at it. Humans were good at it. Not because they wanted to be, but because they had to be. Survival demanded it. History demanded it. And now the galaxy was learning what that meant. The semi-final match between Captain Day One and Commander Thal drew the largest crowd of the tournament. Word had spread about the human. His previous victories were no longer dismissed as luck. The galaxy wanted to see what would happen when he faced a hive mind warrior. Commander Thal entered the arena first. His insect-like body moved with mechanical precision. 4 legs carried him smoothly across the floor. His blade arms were folded against his carapace. Behind his multifaceted eyes, thousands of minds calculated and planned. The Corvin Collective had studied every second of Day One's fights. They had analyzed his patterns, predicted his strategies, prepared counters for every possible action. The hive was confident. Individual fighters relied on instinct and training. They had patterns, weaknesses, but a hive mind could process millions of variables instantly. They could adapt faster than any single consciousness. No individual could match that advantage. Then Day One entered. He looked the same as always. Gray hair, scarred face, slight limp, simple clothing. The crowd fell quiet. They had learned to look past appearances. This man had defeated champions who were stronger, faster, and better armed. How he did it was becoming clear, and it frightened them. In the diplomatic viewing area, Ambassador Hyo Jin watched without expression. Around her, other diplomats leaned forward in their seats. Some had placed bets. Others simply wanted to understand. What was a human? What made them dangerous? This match would provide answers. The starting signal flashed. Commander Thal moved immediately, but not in a straight attack. His movements were random, chaotic. He darted left, then right, then spun. His blade arm struck from unexpected angles. The hive mind used chaos theory, unpredictable patterns designed to confuse individual fighters who relied on pattern recognition. It should have worked. Against any normal fighter, it would have worked, but Day One responded perfectly. He did not try to predict the next move. Instead, he watched Thal's center of mass, his weight distribution, the tiny tells that came before each action. He read the chaos like it was written language. Because humans had fought chaos for millennia, every guerrilla war, every asymmetric conflict, every battle fought in fog and confusion, humans studied unpredictability. They developed instincts for it. They called it combat intuition, battlefield awareness, the ability to make decisions with incomplete information. Thal struck high. Day One ducked and moved inside the reach. He grabbed one of Thal's legs and pulled, not hard, just enough to break the Corvin's balance. Thal compensated instantly. The hive mind processed the threat and adjusted, but Day One was already moving to the next position. Strike, dodge, counter. The pattern repeated. But it was not really a pattern. Day One adapted to each exchange. He learned from every movement. His brain processed information in real time, adjusting and responding. Not as fast as a hive mind's collective processing, but fast enough. Always fast enough. Commander Thal felt something he had never experienced before. Uncertainty. The human should not be able to counter the chaos patterns. No individual consciousness should process that quickly, but Daewon moved like he saw the future, like he knew where Thal would be before Thal knew himself. 3 minutes passed. Then 5. The match lasted longer than any of Daewon's previous fights. The crowd watched in silence. This was not the quick, brutal efficiency they had seen before. This was something else. A demonstration. Daewon was showing the galaxy what a human could do. Thal changed tactics. He tried to overwhelm with speed. Strike after strike after strike. The hive mind pushed his body to its limits. Blade arms moved in a blur. But Daewon was not where the strikes landed. He flowed, ducked, weaved. His movements were efficient but not machine-like. They were organic, natural, like water flowing around stones. The hive mind made a realization. Humans did not need collective consciousness. They developed something else. They trained individual minds to process like supercomputers, pattern recognition, predictive thinking, adaptive response, all happening in milliseconds, all running on organic neural networks refined by millions of years of evolution. Daewon saw his opening. Thal had pushed too hard, extended too far. His balance was compromised. Daewon struck, not at the blade arms, not at the legs, at the joint where thorax met abdomen, a precise blow that disrupted neural connections. Thal's rear legs went numb. He stumbled. Daewon pressed the advantage. 3 more strikes, each one calculated, each one targeting a specific weakness. Thal tried to recover. The hive mind screamed instructions through his nervous system, but his body would not respond correctly. The human had found the weak points in Quarvan physiology that even they did not know existed. Commander Thal fell. His legs gave out. He tried to rise. Could not. The match was over. Medics rushed onto the floor. Daewon stepped back immediately. He showed respect with a small bow, then turned and walked away. The limp was more pronounced now. The fight had cost him. The arena remained silent for a long moment. Then someone began to clap. Slowly, others joined, not the wild cheering from before. This was different. This was respect mixed with fear. They had just watched a single human defeat a warrior backed by thousands of linked minds. As Thal was carried from the arena, he sent one final transmission to his hive. The message would spread through the Quarvan Collective and beyond. It would be studied by every military strategist in the galaxy. They are all soldiers. Every human is born into a warrior culture they call history. They do not train for war. They inherit it. Every human child studies ancient battles, learns from past conflicts, absorbs thousands of years of combat knowledge. By the time they reach adulthood, they have seen more warfare than most species experience in their entire civilization. The transmission continued. They compensate for their individual weakness by developing pattern recognition beyond our comprehension. They trained themselves to fight in chaos, in uncertainty, in the unknown, because that is where their wars were fought, in darkness, in confusion, against enemies who thought like them, adapted like them. Captain Daewon is not special among his kind. He is simply experienced. And Earth has millions like him. Billions of people raised in a culture that studies conflict like we study mathematics. They know war, not as an abstract concept, but as a living, breathing reality that shaped their entire history. In the diplomatic area, panic began to spread. Representatives demanded information. How many soldiers did Earth have? What were their capabilities? Why had no one warned them about this? Hyojin remained calm. She had known this would happen. Earth's entry into the galactic community had been peaceful, cooperative. They shared technology and culture, helped with trade disputes, but they never showed their teeth. Until now, a senior diplomat from the Krathian Empire approached her. His scales were pale with stress. Your champion. He was described as outdated, retired, past his prime. Yes, Hyojin confirmed. How many better warriors does Earth have? Hyojin looked directly at him. Captain Daewon retired 8 years ago. He served in special operations. Elite forces. Earth has thousands in those units currently serving, young, fast, enhanced with modern technology. Daewon represents what we were. The current generation, they are eager, hungry. They have studied every battle in human history. They want to prove themselves. The Krathian diplomat's expression changed. Horror replaced confusion. Why did you send him? Why not your best? Because our best are busy, protecting our colonies, training new recruits, serving in our defense fleets. Daewon volunteered because he is tired of war. He wanted to show the galaxy what humans are capable of. Without killing, without permanent damage, he fights with restraint, with control. The younger ones, Hyojin paused. They have not learned restraint yet. The diplomat walked away without another word. Hyojin watched him go. She felt no satisfaction, only sadness. Earth did not want to be feared. They wanted to be respected, to be partners. But the galaxy needed to understand, needed to see, and now they were seeing. In the medical bay, a defeated warrior asked the medic a question. How many like him does Earth have? The medic, who had been listening to the broadcasts, answered honestly. All of them. Every single human is like him. Maybe not as experienced, maybe not as skilled, but they all have that same capacity, that same potential, because they come from a world that taught them to survive, to adapt, to fight. The warrior closed his eyes. He thought about his homeworld, peaceful, safe, protected. His people had never needed to become warriors. They had no predators, no real conflicts. They evolved in harmony. But humans? Humans evolved in constant danger. They competed with each other, with their environment, with everything, and that competition made them sharp, deadly, efficient. Daewon sat alone in his quarters. His hands shook slightly. Old nerves, old fears. The fight with Thal had been harder than the others. The hive mind had pushed him, made him work. He was not young anymore. His body protested every movement, but his mind remained sharp, clear, focused. One more match. The finals. Against Vexthar the Sunderer, the undefeated Krathian champion. 17 consecutive tournament victories, enhanced genetics, cybernetic augmentation, born and bred for combat. The ultimate warrior. Daewon allowed himself a small smile. The mask was almost completely gone now. The arena was filled beyond capacity for the final match. Every seat was taken. Diplomatic delegations from across the galaxy pressed together in the viewing areas. Millions more watched through broadcasts on their home worlds. This was no longer just a tournament. It had become something bigger. A revelation. A moment when the galaxy learned something new about itself and its newest members. Vexthar the Sunderer stood in his preparation chamber. 8 feet of scaled muscle and enhanced bone. His claws were sharp enough to cut through steel. His cybernetic enhancements glowed softly beneath his skin. Neural boosters, reaction enhancers, pain suppressors. He was the perfect warrior. Born from champion bloodlines, trained from hatching, modified by the best technology the Krathian Empire could provide. He had won 17 consecutive tournaments, defeated hundreds of opponents, never lost, never even been truly challenged. He was strength, speed, power, everything a warrior should be. But as he reviewed footage of the humans' previous matches, doubt crept into his mind. Something was wrong with this Captain Daewon. He fought like no warrior Vexthar had ever seen. No pride, no rage, no passion. Just cold, calculated violence, like a machine. But not a machine. Something worse. Something aware. In his own chamber, Daewon prepared quietly. He stretched each muscle carefully, testing, assessing. His body was a map of old injuries, scars from bullets, burns from explosions, marks from blade weapons. Each one told a story. Each one was a lesson learned in blood. He thought about home. Subin would be watching. She had asked him not to go. Their children, Jiwoo and Taeyang, were worried. But Daewon had made a promise to Earth. One last mission, one final demonstration. Then he could rest. Really rest forever. The call came. Time to enter the arena. Daewon stood slowly. His knee protested. Always the knee. The old injury that never healed, right? He limped toward the entrance tunnel. Each step deliberate, controlled. The mask was still in place. The appearance of weakness, of age, of damage, but inside something else waited. Something the galaxy was about to see. Vexthar entered first. The crowd erupted in cheers. He was their champion, their perfect warrior. He raised his arms and roared. The sound shook the arena. Power, dominance, victory. This was what a champion looked like. Then Daewon emerged from the opposite tunnel. The crowd's noise changed. Uncertainty replaced enthusiasm. This small, limping human would face the Sunderer? It seemed impossible. Cruel even. The betting system showed overwhelming odds in Vexthar's favor. But those who had watched carefully noticed something. The human's eyes. They were different now. Still calm, still controlled. But there was something behind them. Something cold and ancient and absolutely merciless. The fighters took their positions. The arena officials checked their equipment. Both wore minimal protection. This was combat, pure and simple. The starting signal would flash, and then there would be only two warriors and the space between them. Ambassador Hyojin watched from above. Her hands gripped the railing. She knew what was coming. She had seen Daewon's service records. The classified missions. The operations that officially never happened. She knew what he was capable of when the mask came off. The signal flashed. Vexthar attacked immediately. His enhanced muscles propelled him forward with incredible speed. Claws extended, jaws open. A killing strike meant to end the match in seconds. Daewon moved. Not with the careful economy of his previous matches. Not with calculated precision. He exploded into motion. The limp vanished. The age disappeared. What remained was something pure and terrible. A human stripped down to its most basic programming. Survive, adapt, overcome, win. The mask was gone. The Reaper stood revealed. Vexthar's claws passed through empty air. Daewon was inside his reach. Under his defenses. Moving with a speed that should have been impossible for an unenhanced human. But this was not about enhancement. This was about 10,000 years of evolution. Millions of years before that. Persistence hunters who chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Survivors who outlasted every predator on their world. Daewon struck. Not at the armor. Not at the obvious targets. At the joints between cybernetic and organic tissue. The weak points that existed in any enhanced system. His strikes were precise, calculated, each one designed to maximize damage while minimizing energy expenditure. Vexthar roared and swung. His claws could tear through armor plating. But Daewon was not where the strikes landed. He flowed, moved, adapted to each attack in real time. His brain processed information at speeds that approached the theoretical limits of human cognition. This was what humans could do when pushed. When survival demanded everything, the match continued. Seconds became minutes. Vexthar fought with everything he had. His training, his enhancements, his genetic advantages. He was stronger, faster, more durable. By every measure, he should win. But Daewon was human, and humans learned to fight the most dangerous opponent in their galaxy, themselves. Every tactic Vexthar used, humans had developed and countered centuries ago. Every strategy, every technique, every trick. Humans had seen it, fought it, overcome it, against other humans who adapted just as quickly. Daewon used everything. The environment, physics. Vexthar's own strength turned against him. He targeted the cybernetic implants specifically, found their weaknesses, exploited the slight delay between neural command and mechanical response. It was only milliseconds, but milliseconds were enough for a mind trained to fight in chaos. The crowd watched in stunned silence. This was not a fight. It was a demonstration, a teaching moment. The human was showing the galaxy something fundamental, showing them what his species truly was. Vexthar began to slow. Not because he was tired. His enhancements prevented fatigue, but because he was overwhelmed. Every attack failed. Every strategy was countered. The human seemed to predict everything, see everything, know everything. The Krathian champion realized something terrible. He was not fighting a warrior. He was fighting the accumulated knowledge of thousands of years. Every battle humanity ever fought, every tactic ever developed, every lesson ever learned, all compressed into one man, one tired, scarred, broken man who refused to quit. Daewon struck the final blow, not with maximum force, with perfect precision. A strike to the base of Vexthar's skull where cybernetic met spine. The neural connection disrupted. The Krathian's legs gave out. He fell, tried to rise. Could not. The match was over. The arena was silent. Completely silent. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species sat in shocked disbelief. The impossible had happened. The perfect warrior had fallen. Not to another perfect warrior, but to a broken human who limped. Daewon stood over Vexthar. For a moment, the galaxy saw the Reaper, the killer, the thing that humans became when survival demanded it. Then slowly, carefully, Daewon extended his hand, an offering, helped to rise, because humans understood something that many species did not. Victory without honor was hollow. Strength without compassion was cruelty. Daewon had won, but he showed respect to the warrior who had fought him. This too was human. The capacity for mercy, for empathy, even in the heart of violence. Vexthar looked at the extended hand, then at Daewon's face. The human's eyes were tired, sad even. This was not a man who enjoyed fighting. This was a man who knew the cost of violence, who carried it with him every day. Every scar was a memory, every victory a burden. The Krathian took the offered hand. Daewon helped him stand, supported his weight. The crowd watched. Then from somewhere in the stands, someone began to clap. Slowly, others joined, not cheering, not celebrating, just acknowledging, respecting. Vexthar spoke loud enough for all to hear. His translator broadcast the words across the arena. I have fought creatures across 100 worlds. Champions from the greatest civilizations. None fought like this. What are you? Daewon's response was simple, quiet, but it carried through the silence. A human. Just a human. Just a human. The words echoed through the galaxy, because that was the truth. Daewon was not special among his kind. He was not the best, not the fastest or strongest. He was simply a soldier, one of millions, one of billions. Earth's history was full of men and women like him, warriors who learned their craft in the hardest school possible, conflict against their own kind. The medical team entered the arena. Daewon stepped back. The limp returned. The mask began to rebuild itself. But it was too late. The galaxy had seen, they knew, and they would never forget. In the diplomatic viewing area, ambassadors sat in stunned silence. Their champion had fallen, but more importantly, their understanding had been shattered. Humanity was not weak. They were not soft. They were dangerous in ways that defied measurement, because they were not warriors despite their biology. They were warriors because of it. They evolved as persistence hunters, chasing prey for days until it collapsed. They survived ice ages without natural fur, fought predators without natural weapons, conquered their planet through adaptation and tool use, then turned on each other and refined warfare into a precise science. And now they were in the stars, looking outward. Still peaceful, still diplomatic. But the capacity remained. The knowledge, the skill, the terrible, beautiful efficiency of a species that earned its place at the top through blood and determination. Daewon left the arena floor. Each step hurt. The victory ceremony was subdued. There were no wild celebrations, no triumphant roars. The arena that had been filled with noise and excitement now held a different energy, respect mixed with uncertainty, fear tempered with understanding. Captain Daewon stood on the winner's platform. He wore simple Earth military dress uniform, gray and black, clean lines. No decoration except for his service medals. Each one represented missions he could not talk about. Operations that officially never happened. Lives saved and lost in the darkness between stars. The Council of Dominions presented him with the tournament trophy, a crystalline structure that represented unity and strength. Daewon accepted it with a small bow. His face showed no pride, no satisfaction, just tired acknowledgement. Another mission complete, another duty fulfilled. Ambassador Hyo-jin stood nearby. She would give a speech soon. Words carefully prepared to reassure the galaxy while making Earth's position clear. But for now she simply watched Daewon, this man who had served his world so well, who had sacrificed so much, who carried scars both visible and hidden. The ceremony continued with traditional elements. Defeated champions came forward to acknowledge the victor. Each one approached Daewon with new eyes. They had learned something in their defeats, something about themselves, something about humanity, something about the nature of strength itself. Vexthar approached last. The Krathian champion's scales had lost some of their luster. His defeat weighed on him. 17 tournaments won, then this. But as he looked at Daewon, he felt something unexpected. Not shame, understanding. He had not lost to a better warrior. He had lost to a different kind of warrior. One forged in fires he could barely imagine. Your people, Vexthar said quietly. They all fight like you? Daewon shook his head slightly. No, many fight better, younger, faster. I am outdated, retired. He gestured to the arena. This is not my world anymore. I belong to the past. Vexstar felt a chill. Then what is your world now? Who are the young ones? They grew up in peace, Daewon answered. But they study war like we studied survival. They learn from every battle humanity ever fought. They train with technology I never had. They are eager, hungry to prove themselves. I fought because I had to. They will fight because they choose to. That difference, it makes them dangerous in ways I never was. The ceremony concluded. Daewon was free to leave. He walked slowly from the platform. The limp was pronounced now. Real pain from old injuries aggravated by the tournament, but also relief. It was over. He could go home. Behind closed doors, the Council of Dominions held an emergency session. Representatives from every major species gathered. The mood was tense, fearful. They had invited humanity into the galactic community with open arms, welcomed them as partners, but now they understood what they had welcomed. And it changed everything. Commander Thal's report was shared among them. The Corvin hive mind's analysis of humanity. It painted a picture that disturbed them deeply. A species that survived ice ages without natural protection, conquered their world without natural weapons, then spent thousands of years fighting each other with increasing sophistication. Every human child studied ancient battles like other species studied art. They memorized strategies from conflicts thousands of years old. They learned from victories and defeats that predated space travel. By adulthood, every human carried more tactical knowledge than most species' military commanders. The report concluded with a recommendation that sent shockwaves through the council. Not aggression, alliance. Because if humanity ever unified its full military potential toward external threats, they would not be conquerors. They would be something far worse. They would be inevitable. Ambassador Hyojin was invited to address the council. She stood before them with calm dignity. They looked at her differently now, not as a representative of a minor species, but as someone speaking for a power they had not recognized, had not understood. Honorable representatives, she began. You asked Earth to send our best warrior to prove our worth. We sent Captain Daewon, a retired soldier, a man tired of fighting, a man who represents what we were, not what we are, and certainly not what we will become. She paused. Let them absorb that, then continued. Earth has millions in active military service, billions more in reserve. Every one of them has studied warfare their entire lives. They know tactics from Sun Tzu and Clausewitz, strategies from Hannibal and Napoleon, technologies from conflicts you have never imagined. They practice constantly, train relentlessly, because that is our culture, our history. But, she said, her voice softening, we do not want war with any of you. We have had enough war to last 1,000 lifetimes. We have seen what it costs, what it destroys. Captain Daewon carries those scars. So do millions of other humans. We know violence. We understand it. That knowledge gives us the wisdom to choose peace. A senior council member spoke. His voice trembled slightly. Why did you not tell us? Why hide this? Hyojin met his eyes. We did not hide it. All the information is public, available to anyone who looked. But no one looked. You saw us as young, weak, unimportant. You judged us by your own standards, your own histories. But we are not like you. We evolved differently, survived differently. And now we stand before you asking for partnership, not dominance, partnership. The galaxy has enjoyed peace for centuries, she continued. You have no major predators, no existential threats. You built civilizations without the constant pressure of survival. That gave you art and philosophy and culture. Beautiful things. We admire that. We want to learn from it. But understand this, if something threatens that peace, if something comes from the darkness between stars looking for prey, humans will remember what we are, what we had to become to survive. The council chamber was silent. Then one representative began to clap. Slowly, others joined. Not enthusiastic applause. Thoughtful acknowledgement. Respect born from understanding rather than fear. Across the galaxy, the news spread. Earth had won the tournament. More importantly, Earth had revealed itself. Military academies began requesting human warfare texts, tactical databases, historical records. Earth shared freely, because knowledge shared was knowledge that built bonds. Trust. The Krathian Empire approached Earth with a proposal. Cultural exchange programs, military cooperation. They wanted to learn, to understand. Earth accepted. Better to be partners than potential enemies. Better to share knowledge than hoard it. The Quarvan Collective requested access to human tactical philosophy. Earth politely declined sharing classified information, but offered public military history, thousands of years of documented conflicts, strategies, outcomes, lessons learned. The hive mind absorbed it all, and understood finally why individual humans were so dangerous. They learned from their past, constantly, obsessively. Captain Dewan returned to Earth 2 weeks after the tournament. His ship descended through atmosphere toward home. Sol stretched below. Millions of lights. Millions of people. Each one carrying that same human potential. That same capacity for adaptation and survival. Subin waited at the landing facility. She saw him emerge from the ship, limping, tired, older somehow, but alive, whole. She ran to him. They embraced. No words needed. He was home. Finally home. That night they had dinner together. The family complete again. Jiwoo asked about the tournament. Daewon answered simply. It went well. Earth One, Taeyang, his son, spoke up. Father, I received my acceptance to the Earth Defense Academy. I start training in 3 months. Daewon felt conflicting emotions. Pride, fear, sadness. The next generation stepping forward. Eager to serve. To prove themselves. Just as he had been once. Before the scars, before the nightmares, before he learned what violence truly cost. I am proud of you, Daewon said carefully. But remember, being a warrior is not about glory. It is about service. Sacrifice, protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Never forget that. Never forget the cost. I understand, Father. Subin squeezed Daewon's hand under the table. She understood what he felt. The burden of knowledge, of experience, of seeing the next generation walk the same path. But that was humanity. Each generation learning from the last, building on what came before, always moving forward, always adapting. Later, Daewon stood on their apartment balcony. The city lights stretched to the horizon. Above, stars glittered. Somewhere up there, the galaxy was processing what they learned, adjusting their understanding, changing their policies, all because one tired soldier showed them what humans could do. He thought about the other species, their peaceful histories, their harmonious cultures. Part of him envied that. Wished humanity could have developed that way. Without the constant warfare, without the bloodshed, but then humanity would not be humanity. They were shaped by conflict, forged by it, and now they stood among the stars carrying that legacy. At the galactic arena, still orbiting Concordia Prime, a young maintenance worker watched recordings of the tournament. He was Krathian, young, not yet tested in battle. His supervisor, an old veteran who had fought in border skirmishes, stood beside him. Impressive, yes? The young one asked, watching Daewon's final match. The veteran watched silently, studied the human's movements, the cold precision, the absolute economy of force. Terrifying, he corrected. That is what it is. Why? He is just one human, old,